but that doesn't really matter. I think I've read like 32 new books this year. That number might vary, but you can, they're all here, so you can just count. There's 32, pretty much spot on. So I think these tiers are pretty clear. I'm gonna try to bell curve it. Uh, this is stuff that's like 9.7 plus. These are like the really insanely high ratings, like the best of the best. The top three are all going to be contenders for Book of the Year, and then I'm gonna make a new tier, and then I'm just gonna call it Book of the Year, and there we'll decide what the Book of the Year is. Um, in my mind, it's pretty clear what it is, but on any given day, it varies between like the three things. And as you can see, I read a lot of very specific authors this year, so this is the reason I didn't do a top 10 list. I mean, I was planning to do a top 10 list, but then I realized I didn't read 10 books by 10 different authors that I really liked. Like, I didn't like 10 books by 10 different authors that I gave like 8.5 plus. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The first book that I read this year was Discovery, and it goes right into its grade. Discovery is just like one of the most unique books I have ever read. Uh, if you don't know, it was written by the people over at Talking Story. This is their debut novel. It's all three of them working together. It's collaborative, and it is basically because I really think you should go into it as blind as you possibly can. Um, I'd say read like the prologue and the first part if you really want to get a grasp on whether or not you will like Discovery. But Discovery is just like absolutely phenomenal. This is the first book in a series. It's gonna be five books. It's called Strange Eons. In the future, this could become like an all-time favorite series. It's not quite there yet. I still really like it. But I think it is just phenomenal in every way. Like it has an incredibly unique structure in that there are five parts, one prologue, one epilogue, and interludes, or what I don't remember what they were called in the book, but they were there. Uh, Interludes in the book, and those interludes are like first person diary entries. It's been a while since I've read Discovery, so what I'm saying might not be completely accurate. That doesn't really matter, but Discovery is really good. Those interlude chapters are actually like that's my favorite character in the whole book. He is insanely well written, but uh, it's cosmic horror. It does everything that it tries to do insanely well. There are moments in this book that is just like genuinely bone chilling, and I think in the future, like there are moments where like lore is revealed, like throughout the five different parts, you get this intense build up like from these five different characters' perspectives, like completely um like all of their stories seem very disjointed from one another at first. Disjointed as in like they're connected by the common thread of the inciting incident that happens in the prologue in part one, but disjointed as in like these characters don't interact with each other. They are in completely different parts of the world, and actually because they're all in different parts of the world, like audiobook that's coming out or that has come out, if I'm not wrong, uh, is getting like six or seven or eight different narrators to do each different like character. And that is just like a really good choice. I'm more iffy on like books with multiple narrators for audiobooks because like I just listened to the first series of Olympus book on audio, and I'll talk about this more later. But the voices for like Jason and Leo are really good. I'll talk more about like problems I have with them. The voice for Piper is just like, genuinely horrible. So I'd rather have like one really good representative narrator than seven of varying quality. Uh, and like if there's like one that's just like the best narrator I've ever heard, and then the next one is like a cat screaming into a mic, I'm probably gonna like the one really good representative narrator for the whole thing more. But I understand why they did that, and I have faith that sorry about that each and every narrator is gonna do a good job. But that's kind of going off point. But like, all of these characters are like built up within like 70 pages. I don't remember. It's been a while since I read the book. Again, I did read this in like March or something. It was my first book of the year. Um, but like all of them have incredibly clear motives, personalities, like distinctive personalities on top of that. Like none of them blend into each other. I didn't forget a single name while reading this book, and I forget a lot of names. Like back when I first started like getting into books, I was there were people who kept forgetting names and like that could never be me. That was just because I hadn't read a lot. Now I've read a lot, and names blur together. But I don't forget a single name in Discovery. I think like the overall story that they're building towards has been potential to be something that's just really good. Anyway, I've been talking about this for like 6 minutes straight, and I don't know how long I'm going to talk about the rest. But the next thing I read was Better Cold, which I did like less than Discovery. And at the time I read this, this was my least favorite first law book. I still absolutely loved it. Better Cold tends to be really, really hit or miss for a lot of people. Uh, for people who had problems with the first law's plotting, and so yeah, people who really don't like the first law trilogy's plotting, I am not one of those people. People are like, oh, the Blade itself doesn't have plot. I don't. I think the Blade itself not only has a plot, the plot of the Blade itself is really good, but I digress. Rest of Gold is a really well plotted novel, but some people drag in the middle, and it is really fast paced, but I get why it drags in because like I can see how it would get kind of repetitive. Um, I just think Breath of Gold is awesome, and because of that, it goes here immediately. I think like the same thing that I said for Discovery, like you get uh really well fleshed out characters within like the first couple pages and like first couple chapters of meeting a character is very true for Discovery, except I think the average character in Discovery is probably better than the average character in Best of Gold, which is like insane because Abercrombie is my second favorite character writer, but that's just how good Discovery is. And Best of Gold, it's like, but thing is, Best of Gold has Shivers, and I like Shivers more than every character in Discovery. It's there's kind of an imbalance there. But I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about Best of Gold. It's a revenge plot. It's my favorite revenge story I've seen done. I haven't seen a lot of revenge stories done, but this is my favorite one pretty comfortably. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Um, I think it was like really good getting back into the point for the first law for me because like I read the original trilogy, took a big break, and then came back to this, and it was really good. Uh, it's like my second least favorite first law novel anyway, but that's just I think that says more about how good the average first law book is rather than how much I like it. Anyway, Soul Music by Sir Terry Pratchett. It is either going to go to the top of its good or the bottom of its great. Soul Music is a book that's just like it's really good. It's not S tier Discworld. Like last year, I read like three Discworld books that were like S tier. They would go here or here. Uh, Soul Music is not one of those books. Soul Music, however, is really, really good. This book cemented that as my favorite Discworld character over Vimes. It's a competition between the two of them. Um, the thing is, that could change at any moment, and the thing that makes that really impressive to me, most of the work was done by Reaper Man, I'm not gonna lie, but this one like solidified it. Is that Dead is barely in this book, kind of like Morton that way, but there's even less than the character. Soul Music is like the first half of Soul Music is maybe like the most consistently funny part of any Discord book. The reason I don't think it's the funniest Discord book is just that like Men at Arms is like it's less consistently funny. Like there's a lower average amount of jokes that land per like every couple of pages in that like completely land in Men at Arms than in Soul Music. Like Soul Music, I was like laughing out loud with like almost every page. The thing is, I just think Men at Arms jokes are more memorable, whereas like Soul Music is just like Sir Terry just like unlocked the top of this game. Uh, but yeah, so the thing about Soul Music is that it's good anyway, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And it's just like I was having a lot of fun with the book, and like I grew up on like rock my dad plays in the car, and hearing there are references in this book, and I'm 100% certain and I didn't get even like half or everything. You check the annotations for this book, and I don't mean like the annotations within the book. I mean the annotations for this book are like that space wiki. Uh, there's like 50 references that I like comprehend, but like the ones that I did get are really funny. Like I'm not gonna say too much, but it's just like it is just an insanely funny book, and like towards the end, like it, I think there's some surprisingly touching moments in soul music, which is all I'll say. Um, yeah, I think that's about all I have to say about soul music. Royal Assassin is our first installment. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. Um, at the time I read Royal Assassin, it became my favorite book. Like my, like if you limit the top five, my top five favorite books of all time, like having one book per each author. This became like my third favorite book of all time. Royal Assassin is just insanely good. So like I read Assassin's Apprentice last year, and I really loved Assassin's Apprentice. I didn't love Assassin's Apprentice as much as I thought I would, but Assassin's Apprentice is still just insanely good. It's my least favorite Hobb book. As you can see, there's a lot more Hobb on this list. But the thing about Royal Assassin is that I had heard that Hobb is the best character writer of all time. This is the book where I finally started seeing it because every single character in this book, like it has a relatively small side cast and uh, like cast of characters, but like every single character in that cast is really really well fleshed out. Um, really well, like the relationship dynamics in this book are just insanely well handled. It's just like every single one feels so real that I can't really even put words into it. And like this could go slow for a lot of people. This didn't go slow. I read it slow, but it didn't like feel slow. I mean it felt slow, but in a good way. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's just like it's just like almost every single moment of this book feels perfect. There's like books where I think like every chapter is perfect. This is like on the front, like on front run of that list. The only reason it's not there is just because like the first two chapters are a little weaker than the rest, and then like from chapter three it just like goes into full speed, and then it just keeps getting better, and then by the middle it peaks, and then the ending is like insanely good. So uh yeah, this is one of my favorite books of all time, if you can't tell. And like it builds upon what's already there in Assassin's Apprentice. Every new character, specifically one new character that it introduces, is just again one of my favorite characters of all time. The thing is with Hobb, it's like it's not that impressive for me to say that oh this Hobb character is one of my favorite characters of all time, because if you look at it, Hobb is probably the author who has the most characters who are among my favorite characters of all time. Uh, but this is like my fifth like Fitz is now like my second favorite character of all time. Before I read Fool's Fate, he was like number three, and then he moved up to number two. And the other character who was introduced in Royal Assassin uh, is now like my fifth or sixth favorite character of all time. He's again their character relationship is insanely well written, and I'm gonna. The thing is, I want to save talking about that for later on in hot books. So, Gardens of the Moon, it's good. The thing is, Malazan has a reputation for being really complicated and really hard to get. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't find that to be true about Gardens of the Moon at all. And the thing that surprised me the most about Gardens of the Moon is like halfway through, like I was having a lot of fun with it. It's just like that part of Gardens of the Moon is just like really, really fun to read because okay. Latin books are obviously like split into different parts or books as they call, which by the way, it's just like a really confusing way of splitting up a book. Because like, Stormlight has like the whole part thing. Uh First Law also does the part thing. Carnival Moon, it's book one of Latin Book of Paul, and oh yeah, I'm reading book two right now. Oh, you're on Dead House Gates? No, I'm on book two of Guardians of the Moon. It's just a really stupid system, and I think Erickson should get good. But Guardians of the Moon is really good. Nowhere near as confusing as most people made it out to be. It's just like I think that aspect of it was like completely overblown. I don't know if it's just me, but it's like I was genuinely more confused by like Stormlight than I have ever been in Guardians of the Moon. The one part that I think is confusing, I don't think it's confusing as like a choice, because like the parts where it's just like, oh, I don't know what this thing is, which is just like, by the way, it's a completely normal reaction to most fantasy. It's like, if I hadn't heard all the confusing stuff, I would generally not have like marked this as very different a reading experience to most fantasy books. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. But the problem with this book is that part of the ending is just stupid, in my opinion. It's not like stupid in that it makes no sense. It's just stupid as in there's no setup towards it. And the thing that it was paying off is like something that has been really cool throughout the whole book. The problem is it's just like the way that it is resolved gets no introduction. So like this, like when it just happens in the middle of like a really good scene, and then like I didn't understand what was happening, and not like oh, I'll figure this out later. It's just like this isn't written in a way that's good, and I'm saying that in a weird way, and I can't really explain it without spoiling anything. So it's the best I can do. I just don't like there's one part of this book that I found confusing, and I don't think it's confusing like as an artistic choice. I think it's confusing because it's bad. Everything else about this book really good, and like part one is it's okay. I'm gonna be completely honest. It's like it's an okay part of the book. The ending of part one, and I'm not gonna call it book one again because that's stupid. The ending of part one of Gardens of the Moon is pretty good, and then book two introduces like a really really great cast of characters, and then book two is like maybe my favorite section of the book by far. Because again, it's just really fun. And then it keeps building, and then it just like the overall story of the book just keeps getting better, and then that climax is just so stupid. It's like Eye of the World. This book was like on track for me to like it a lot more than Eye of the World, and then by the end of it, it's like I only like this a little bit more than Eye of the World. So Current of the Moon is good. It has the potential for greatness. Now it's not my favorite because do have a lot of problems with it. The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie is my second favorite book that I've read this year that I've put on this journey so far. So like originally I was like, oh, I like the heroes a little bit less than Best of Cold. And then the more I sit on it and the more I read the first law, the heroes is just like one of the best books in the entire series. It is verging on near peak. In fact, I might put it there. I will decide later. But the heroes is like absolutely phenomenal. In I think if okay, this is all I'm gonna say about heroes. If you were going to read, there's a lot of people, First Law split into like two trilogies. First Law trilogy, Age of Malice trilogy, and then there's the three standalones in between those three. There's a lot of people who just skip the standalones. Uh, if you had to read one, read the heroes. No, you have to read the heroes. I think the heroes is basically like essential reading for the first law. I can understand like skipping Best of Cold. I can definitely understand skipping Red Country. Do not skip the heroes because first of all, the heroes is really fucking good, and second of all, it feels really important. Like it lends itself to the whole story thematically really really well, like insanely. Also, I'm gonna move Lord of Emperors to right after saving, but no, it doesn't matter. Okay, whatever. Like thematically for the whole series, it like it acts as a perfect midpoint. In again, in way, it's just like so many things that have like been stated or like as thematic points for like the first law books before the heroes like reach a really good climax in the heroes, and then like a lot of the things that are brought up in the Age of Madness like stem from the heroes, and I just think the heroes is like a really perfect, it is like smack dab in the middle of the first law. Like if you take first law as 10 books, like it's 9 books plus sharp ends. But if you take the first law as 10 books, then the heroes is like right in the middle, and I think that works, that part of it works really well. Also the heroes is like, I thought I wouldn't like this book because it's like 3 days of battle, and I don't generally like battle scenes very much. The heroes is actually like the amount of battle that happens in this book is less than what I was expecting, and that's probably why I like it as much as I do. But what battle that is there in this book is like insanely well written. And this made Abercrombie my favorite action writer by far. Better Cole already had like some really really good action scenes. I know someone who would disagree, but um, I like them. And then the heroes just manages to be even better in every single way. And the heroes is also just like insanely impressive because it's doing stuff that like you could genuinely make into a whole series on its own. Like another like the heroes could be the second trilogy. Like honestly, I would like to call like the three major uh, pillars of the first Law world is just like the first Law trilogy, the heroes, and the Age of Madness. If you do that reading order, that's totally fine. Do that. As long just don't skip the heroes. You can also like treat Best of Gold because Best of Gold is like really good, but Best of Heroes is better and more important. So read the heroes instead. The Enies Lobby saga of One Piece is going into the S tier. This book is insanely good. Um, Water 7 is split into like four different parts as a book. Um, so there it's One Piece. This is the fourth saga of One Piece. The first saga is the East Blue saga. The second is Alabasta. Third is Skypiea, and this is Water 7. And each of those sagas are made up of arcs. I mean, if you read One Piece, you know this, but uh, for anyone who doesn't, this is I'm explaining it to you. Uh, one so this Water 7 is made up of four arcs. The first arc is Long Ring Long Land. Long Ring Long I can't say it. Long Ring Long Land is somewhat divisive because it feels like filler. I think it kind of is filler, but I think it's a really really good filler. Is my thing. It is insanely funny, uh, and it's just like one of the most fun things I've ever read in my life. It's funnier than most books I've ever read. Like most books that are trying to be funny at least, and it's just my shit. Then immediately after that, you get one of the most like soul crushing things I've ever read, which is the Water 7 arc. And I think Water 7, the arc Water 7 and Enies Lobby, which is the third arc of Water 7 saga, are basically just one big arc because they work best that way. I took a big break in between the Water 7 arc and Enies Lobby arc, which honestly I should not have done. But uh, it it worked anyway, so I'm not beating myself up too much about it. But the Water 7 arc is just like so before this I was like my opinions on each of the individual like crew members because One Piece is about pirates. Each of the individual crew members was like more mixed from person to person. Um Water 7 does a really, really good job of like expanding on the relationships between like specifically two of the main crew members of the ship. I'm not gonna say the ship's name. But like what is so impressive about this saga is that it it makes me care really deeply about every single one of Straw Hat. And And then Ellie's Lobby is like one of the most insane emotional roller coaster rides I've ever read. I don't cry that often at books. I don't cry at books. I don't think I ever have. I've cried at movies. Ellie's Lobby, like the final scene of Ellie's Lobby, like pushed me, like got a couple of tears out of me. And it is just insanely good. One of the most one of the most emotionally devastating things I've ever read. At this point, I am not surprised when a One Piece flashback is really good because One Piece, like along with Stormlight, is the best thing at flashbacks I've ever read. Except like there's like something in Life Ship that I think is really good, but it's not a flashback. But if it was a flashback, it would be so good. But I think it might be better that it's not a flashback. Anyway, I'm talking about how good Life Ship is, which I'm gonna do anyway later on. But um, anyway, the flashbacks in this book in this saga are like some of the best things I've ever read. They're my favorite One Piece flashbacks so far. Like first of all, they take like the overall messages of One Piece and they just like they really streamline it and make me see where this is going, and I think that's great. And also they are just insanely devastating. So I'm gonna say devastating a lot more throughout this thing, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that this is insanely good. This is just one of the best things I've ever read. And like before I started One Piece, I was like, I would never have expecting this, and now I expect nothing less. So I'm it's kind of sad that this is the only One Piece I read this year. I was hoping to finish like Thriller Bark and Marineford, um, but I'm gonna do that this year, and then I'm gonna start post time skip stuff, which I'm very excited for because this was just so good. Um, Short history of nearly everything is going to go to the bottom if it's good. This book is actually like really good, really good. I listened to most of it on audiobook, and I just uh, it does a really good job of conveying most of the information. This is like Terry Pratchett's favorite book. Like I heard that somewhere, like on Twitter Ramble. Good choice, I think. But he's written better, as you can see by him being above this. But I just think this is a really good book. The last like paragraphs of this got me weirdly emotional. I don't even remember what they were about, but I think they were just like really well written, and like the audiobook performance was really good. Uh, that's about it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I might honestly like it more than Garden of the Moon. Might even go here, like instinct. Like as soon as I finished it, it might have even gone here. It's not gonna go there, but it's gonna go to the top of its good for sure. Uh, so Assassin's Quest is the first book. Like there are three books on this whole tier list that contend for my book of the year. Assassin's Quest is the first one, and arguably the best one. And Assassin's Quest is again pretty divisive within like the people who read it under the other leagues because it like drags like for some people it drags a little in the middle. Um, Assassin's Quest has what is quite possibly like my favorite first act of a story in all of fiction, and that's kind of cheating because I'm going to talk about another book, two other books actually that have really really good first acts, and that's because and like completely on their own merit. Assassin's Quest is just like it builds up. The ending of Royal Assassin is already like insane. Um, it's it's wild, but. And it's insanely emotional. And then the first like a lot of books take a while to get really, really, really good. Um, some people are like, "Oh, this book got really, really, really good on the first page." I don't agree with most books people think like say that for on the first page. Assassin's Quest got really, really, really good for me on the first page. Like the prologue, um, l- people say like people can say like the Wheel of Time, the slug, nothing happens in the slug. Stuff happens in the slug. When I say nothing happens in the prologue to Assassin's Quest, I completely mean it. Like nothing happens. It's just him writing. Uh, it's just it's so good. And then it immediately like drags out every single emotion that I felt from the end of Royal Assassin and then amplifies it by 20. So that's why I say it's kind of cheating because it is directly playing off the emotions I felt um, from a book I've already read. But it does that really well, so I don't care. And then the rest of Assassin's Creed is still really good. So some people are like, okay, Royal Assassin and character relationships are like the best part of the book by far for me as well. And this book is less focused on that. I think that really works for the book in a way that I cannot stand because that would be kind of spoilery. But like in the situation he is in, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it works to the book's advantage really, really well. And the ending of this book is just phenomenal. It's just one of the ending is also controversial. I think this doesn't work as an ending. Like it doesn't work as a conclusive ending to a story. The thing is, I wasn't expecting it to be. So like, don't go into this expecting like a completely satisfying ending for the whole story of the Elder Lakes because that's just not gonna happen. Um, but like, I think the ending of this book is generally phenomenal, and there's scenes in this that like I think about, and then every single emotion I felt like while reading it rushes back to me, and like the escalation of events in the third act feels like so like if you're talking about like Words of Radiance or like any Sanderson book or like Wheel of Time book, and like you think about the third act and like how the tension builds and the escalation of events, It's like bombastic. It's really loud. Like the biggest argument against this is like the Emperor's Soul or like the Gathering Storm. Like if like Hero of Ages, it's bombastic. It's loud. It's big. Like Assassin's Quest, the third act is big in terms of like the scale it's on, but it feels quiet and it feels really personal. And I think that's part of why it hit me so insanely hard. And like again, the character relationships are like the strong suit of the series. And this really played with that. Like the ending of this really played with that because think about it, it's just like every single character. Like in first person, it's harder for me to get invested in side characters. Um, I Hobb Hobb completely disproves any bad notions I had first person beforehand because she's just a master at it, and this book is just uh, one of the best things I've ever read. So yeah, Assassin's Quest is our first book of the year front runner. Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I think it's just good. Yeah, it's just good. Uh, while I do really like parts of Red Country, this is by far my least favorite personal novel. Like the short story collection. I like both of the short story collections less than this, but I don't think that counts. So I have problem with Red Country. First of all, I think Abercrombie is really good at constructing a plot that feels consistently really engaging, like the whole way through. Like stuff might not be happening at like a breakneck pace, and this is something Hobb is also really good at. But it's just like it feels consistently engaging, even if like we don't have a clear endpoint of where we're going to go. Like the play itself is my prime example for this, even though everyone and their mother disagrees with me on that, and they can keep disagreeing with me on that, but I'm right, so doesn't matter. Red Country is not that. It is that in some points, like there are like points where it's like, oh, I do like this could be really compelling, but for the most part, it's just I don't really care much about like you don't really feel the stakes because they're pretty high stakes. Like, they're not like high stakes as in like world level ending. They're not high stakes on like a grand level, but they're high stakes on like they're like high stakes, like personal high stakes, whatever. Um, but it's just like I don't really care that much about them. It's unfortunate. And also like part of the ending of this book is my least favorite like Abercrombie section I've read by far. I just think it's insane. And I was like, okay, it's like an action scene. And like before this, I was like, Joe Abercrombie is the best action writer ever. And like parts of this book, I was like, yeah, he's still the best action writer ever. And then this book, like one of the action scenes, I just found really boring. And like that day, I had like 250 pages in like a sitting earlier. So I was like, maybe I'm just burnt out on this book. But as soon as that section ended, I immediately started enjoying the book more. So yeah, this is my least favorite first novel, comfortably. Uh, yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about it. Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb is another contender for Book of the Year. This book is insanely good. So, when I said earlier about Assassin's Quest, like there are other books that I mentioned that like work as first acts insanely well of their own merit. Ship of Magic is one of them. Ship of Magic might have my this is the second Book of the Year frontrunner. Yes, two of them are by Robin Hobb. That's that's not me being biased. That's just how good Robin Hobb is, by the way. But Triple Magic is one of my second favorite like start to a series ever. I know it's not technically like the start of the series, it's like the fourth book in Love of the Other Links, but it's the first book in the Life Ship Traders. And Super Magic is an insanely good book. Immediately from the get-go. It's like okay, so there's a pro this book has a prologue and it has and then after that is chapter. The prologue is like 2 pages long. Um the prologue has that weird thing where the pages are in Roman numerals instead of in regular pages. So then chapter one starts on page one. So when I opened the book and I immediately went to chapter one, I was like, this is where the book starts. So I completely accidentally skipped the prologue. Uh, but I'm fine with that because I actually think chapter one is like a better starting point than the prologue. But that's not me saying that you should skip the prologue, read the prologue. I'm just happy with how it ended up for me. But Super Magic is just like it's the most effective character building I've ever seen done in a book. ever. It's just from the get go, from like two chapters in of knowing each of these characters, um, you have I've said this about Discovery, I've said this about Best of Gold. Uh, you know everything that you need to know about them, and even more. And the thing about Ship of Magic is that it's a family drama, basically. At the core of it, Ship of Magic is a family drama. And it introduces you, first of all, like, it introduces you to some other stuff. It introduces you to one of the other main characters, who is one of my favorite characters of all time. Actually, Life Ship as a series has probably like highest density of like main characters who are among my favorite characters of all time, which is why I think Life Ship has my favorite character cast of all time. Like, I like two characters from Farseer and like the Fitz books more than every Life Ship character. But I think Life Ship, in terms, like, I like the average Life Ship character more than the average character like of any other piece of fiction I've ever like experienced. It's not just books; it's just anything. But yeah, um, so like before reading this, I was like, Royal Assassin. I had heard like, oh yeah, Rob was one of the best character writers ever, and I was like, whoa. And then Royal Assassin, I was like, whoa, she might be better than Abercrombie. And then like, but I don't think she's quite there for me. And then in the Assassin's Question, I'm like, oh, she's definitely above Abercrombie, but she's not that far ahead of Abercrombie. So what I heard is like, she's like way ahead of everyone else in character writing. Like, she's the best writer, and it's not even close. And then I read Ship of Magic, and like within the first 50 pages, I'm like, I get it. There's people who say that the start of this book is slow. I don't get that at all, because I read this book in like 5 days, and this book is like 800 pages long, which is not something I do very often. Like, this book, this year, my average time for like starting and finishing a book was really, really slow. Not this year, last year, but Chip of Magic is like 900 pages long, 800, 900. I honestly don't know. No, I read this in May. But it's just like insanely good in terms of everything it did. And then like I finished it in 5 days, which is just, I've never done that for a book this long before. I might have done it for like a Stormlight book, but I don't think so. I read Wind and Truth in like 7 days, which like I already read the first 200 pages of that book before it came out, but it's still like 1,100 pages. So I think I'm at the same pace basically. But Triple Magic is like one of the most addictive novels I've ever read, and most people would not call it that because it is really slow. That's not a bad thing, and it's just like, I think the family dynamic in this book is insanely well written. Kyle is one of the worst characters I've ever read in a good way. I hate that man so much, and the family dynamic is again super well written. And I think like she does such a good job introducing everything that's central to the story, like the societal pressures that's being put on them, the problems that are there in society, like everything that is central to this trilogy is introduced like really quickly and introduced really really well. And then it keeps building, and there's like so many moments in this book that I would call like among my favorite moments in all of fiction. One of the best like one book character arcs I've ever read, one of the best like introductory chapters to a character I've ever read. And like the inciting incident to this book happens like 50 pages in. It's just like the slow build up to what that is, and then it finally happening. It's it's one of the best books I've ever read. It is in contention for my book of the year. Okay, Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie is comfortably my least favorite thing I've read in the entire First Law. And anyway, yeah, where was I? So yeah, Sharp Ends is like, there's some really good stuff in Sharp Ends. There's also a lot of incredibly mediocre stuff that happens in Sharp Ends, and it's just not great. I don't have much to say about Sharp Ends. Like, there's these stories that come that like we follow the same two characters, and those are like by far my favorite sections of the book. And I think if I ever reread Sharp Ends, I legitimately might just like reread those sections. Other than that, it was really mediocre. I don't have much else to say about it. So, next up we have the only other manga I read this year, which was Hunter x Hunter, the first arc of Hunter x Hunter specifically. And it's hard to remember right now, but it's just like I remember really, really enjoying the first arc of Hunter x Hunter because I think it's really good. Uh, I think like as a starting, this is better than the first arc of One Piece, which is Romance Dawn. I don't think it's better than like East Blue as a whole, but I think it is. I just think it's just like really really good as a starting to a series. So um, I really like the main characters. I really like their dynamic. I really like everything about this. I don't have a single complaint. I'm really excited to read more. I'm probably gonna put it on pause for a while because my priority is One Piece right now. I'm probably gonna like reread this before I. So that I'll start from the beginning again. But I did really really like the first arc of Hunter x Hunter. It's really good. Okay, a little hated. There's just three book ones in a row. So um two of them are technical book ones, like book one by technicality. So I think Little Hatred is gonna go to the top of its grade. Uh, Little Hatred is like at first I was like, oh, I like this a little less than Blade Silk. With time, I'm like, oh, this is so clearly better than Blade Silk. It's really funny, but so like I like Blade Silk more than most people, but I still think this is a lot better than Blade Silk. First of all, this introduces my two favorite like Abercrombie characters ever, and he is already like my second favorite character writer of all time. Uh, a little hatred is just so the Age of Madness. I'm going to talk about all three Age of Madnesses back to back. I've decided. Okay, no, I won't. But I'm going to like talk about the rest of the Age of Madness. I'm not going to rank them yet, but I'm going to talk about it. Trouble with Peace and Wisdom of Crowds have the syndrome where it's just like the first half is really, really good, but it's not as like insanely bonkersly good as the second half. And like both of them are like that. Trouble with Peace and Wisdom of Crowds. The thing Little Hated is that it starts off at an insane high point, and then like by the end of the book, it is still at an insane high point. Like, to the middle, it's also insanely good. So it's just like it's one of the most consistent in quality books, like chapter by chapter, that I've ever read, and it's even more impressive because it's introducing all these new characters. And yeah, I think one of the most impressive things about the Age of Madness for me is that it's able to like work with all of the same ideas and themes that are present throughout all of First Law. But Age of Madness obviously takes place in a different kind of setting. It takes place in a setting that we have seen before, but it takes place. It's completely different from how we have seen it before, and it's a new era. It's more technology, obviously. And I think the way Age of Madness, the thing that stuck out the most to me while reading A Little Hatred is how well he adapted all of the themes that have been present in the first law and strengthened them to fit this new era of the series. And it's just like going to Red Country to this was like really jarring, but this is so much better than Red Country. It's not even funny. Yeah, I love A Little Hatred. It's really good. So he does these things that is just like um where there so in the Age of Madness specifically and the original first largely he sticks to a pretty set group of of characters. Like he doesn't all of the main chapters of the series like do not go outside of like the main characters that we are following. But there are these chapters, and in all of the Age of Madness, they're called like the little people. In the heroes, he started doing this in the heroes. He started this with a chapter called Casualties, which is by the way in like one of the best like individual chapters I've ever read. And the little people chapter in a little hit is my favorite Little People chapter in the entire Age of Madness. I think like after Little Hatred, it kind of lost its novelty and it just wasn't done as well. Like in a Little Hatred, it was done amazingly well. So yeah, and like it just gets better from here. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, Elves of the Ember Dark is like it's the only new Sanderson book that I've read this year, and I think it's great. So again, I was talking about the first act and like how they work on their own merit. I'll the Everdark legitimately has like within the first 100 pages, this was on track to be my favorite Sanderson book that isn't a Stormlight Archive novel. Um, and I thought like Yumi and a Nightmare Painter was like going to be that for a long, long time. And then like a year after I read this, and then it's already on its way to dethrone. It did not dethrone me. I just think those first 100 pages are just like completely, insanely, amazingly good. Uh, in comparison, uh, yeah, uh, because it's just like I think this is one of the best. Like within the first 100 pages, it technically okay. This is technically like a sequel to a novella that he did in Kahneman about it, which is called Six of the Dusk. The problem is it very directly relies on it pretty directly relies on everything from Six to the Dusk, and so he can't just expect people to like read that one novella just to get this. So he puts a novella in this, and I think that actually works really, really well with this book, and that just elevated the reading experience of both, like, uh, like the present day chapters and like the flashback chapters that go back to what is in Six of the Dusk. And it's like it's the best character introduction that Sanderson has ever done. It's between this and Kaladin, and that's a really high bar for me because Kaladin is my favorite character of all time. I think the introduction to Six of Dusk in this book, and it's not the introduction, but it basically was the introduction for me because I forgot all of Six of Dusk, the novella. Is just so much better than Azurian. And like within the first 100 pages, I was completely captivated by his story, his character, like everything that he cares about. And I don't want to say too much, but it's just like he has a very interesting way of thinking, and he has like one of the strongest character voices Sanderson has ever done, in my opinion. The problem with the rest of House of Hammer is that it's not just a Six of the Dusk book. It has both Six of the Dusk and it has another character who is boring as shit. So there's Starling. Yeah, Starling's okay. Like as book went on, I warmed up to her. I still don't like her. Um, the problem with Starling is like first of all, she's like pretty standard Sanderson character from the start. Because the thing with Sanderson is like when he really really tries with a character, he can legitimately be like an excellent character writer in my opinion. But more often than not, like some of his lesser novels, like that's not like Stormlight, that's not like Mistborn Era 2 or like some specific characters in Mistborn Era 1. Like Elantris, the character cast of Elantris is really generic. Um, Warbreaker is pretty good with its character cast, but it's just like there are characters who I think are pretty generic. Um, Starling is like one of the most generic. She might legitimately be my least favorite Sanderson like main character, like below Rayoran and like Nomad, which is a low bar for me. But uh, and the worst part is she's not even the worst character in her own plotline because her side cast is just like personality trait number one, personality trait number two, and I like part of the stakes is like caring about them, and I could not give less of a shit about them. And I just think that the plot is also less compelling after part one. So that's my problem with Alto Underdog. Like within the first 100 pages are like legitimately fantastic, and then after that it kind of falls off. Maybe not the first 100 pages. I actually don't know how long it is, but just like the first contained part of the novel after the prologue. It could have been here, or like if this everything after that was legitimately amazing, it could have even like gone here, but unfortunately it just goes here. So uh, what next? Dead House Gates by Stephen Erickson, and this kind of hurts because Dead House Gates is a book that has a lot of potential for me. For one thing, I think the writing in Guns of the Moon is much like inferior to what happens in Dead House Gates. I think like how much he steps up his writing, like he becomes like 50 times better of a writer in Dead House Gates compared to Guns. Just like after Guardians of the Moon, people like after I read Guardians of the Moon, I was like, this is the guy that people says is one of the best like prose writers in all fantasy. I'm like, I don't really get it. And then after Death House Kids, I'm like, oh, I get it. He's not one of my favorites because I have problems with him. This is like completely personal problems. Like I cannot visualize while reading Malazan at all. Unfortunately, like I wish I could, but I can't. Like there are scenes where I do visualize what's happening in the Malazan book. They're very very rare, and like there's like a couple scenes, and all of them are from Death Case. Like While reading Under the Moon, I couldn't see anything. Uh, but yeah, and like the thing with Dead House Gates is that the first like couple parts, my opinion on Dead House Gates is like completely opposite to everyone else's because most people are like, oh yeah, the first couple parts are pretty good, and then it swaps around and focuses on a different plot line, and then it becomes truly spectacular. And I'm like, I think the first couple like parts of Dead House Gates are really well written. Like my favorite character so far in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I've only read two books, so it's not that impressive, but uh, is introduced within like the first act, first couple of parts of the House Kids, and I think she's really well written and really compelling. Um, but then the second half of the book focuses less on her and focuses more on this plotline that everyone loves, but I could not give less of a shit about. So that's a problem with like all like with I'll the Ember Dark, Dead House Kids, and the next two books I'm going to be talking about. It's just that they kind of focus on stuff I don't really care about, but I know is essential for the plot, but I still don't care. Um, that's the main problem that you'll see me talk about. But it's just like I wish I liked Dead House Kids more. I think the ending of Dead House Kids is like pretty good. It's not as I don't think it's as good as most people think it is. Um, but I think it's still pretty good. The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb is going right about here in my rankings of the book. So like up to this point, every Robin Hobb book that I've put in this tier list has been in peak. Matchup unfortunately does not quite get there. I really like the matchup. I think the matchup, like for most of the book, it was like going to be here or here. I don't think it would have beat up Little Hatred, but it was going to be here or here. Like most people are like, oh, Chip of Magic is okay, but then matchup and Chip of Destiny is where it gets really good. I like the matchup distinctly less than Chip of Magic, and I'm kind of confused as to why like consensus that matchup is better than Chip of Magic. Chip of Destiny, I understand. I don't really get it for matchup. I'm going to be completely honest, but I think matchup is still a really great book. Main problem is that with matchup, the ending didn't I didn't care about what was happening in the ending. Um, so there's two halves to the ending. The first half is awesome, and I really love it, and then the second half is like something else that I don't really care about as much, which again has been a common thread with both the Amador Dead House Gates and now this. But then like originally I gave this a much lower score, it would have been here. But then I thought about the parts of the magic that I really liked, and I think it extends from magic really well. But the characters are still characters. Like there's a character from Super Magic, and it's just like of the Super Magic, like, the reputation around this character. It's like he is one of the most brilliantly written characters ever. And out of Super Magic, I was like, he's a really great character. I don't think he's one of my favorite characters of all time. And then I read the matchup, and I'm like, oh, he is. He's 100% up there. And matchup really acts as like it, it it really acts as a really good middle book in that it's an amazing stepping stone to everything that's happening in uh, in this book. So in this trilogy as a whole overall, but matchup is there are scenes in matchup that are just like thinking back on them, especially after Lection of Destiny, I love even more. So yeah, matchup is great. Warrior of the Altai by Robert Jordan. If you don't know, like The Wheel of Time is my second favorite series of all time. I love it. This is my least favorite book by the year of the year. Far, I dislike it strongly. And it's just boring. It's a really short book, but it's a really boring short book. The best part of this book is like the main character and like the old lady. Um, Again, this is again a really forgettable book, and like by the ending, I was just it felt like it was dragging on for so long, and I wonder if part of it is like if it was because I listened to it on audiobook, and that's why it felt so much longer than it should have. But it felt like it went on forever, and I just wanted it to end. I'm so happy Jordan became a better writer. It's fun seeing like things that come from the Wheel of Time that come from here and then made their way into the Wheel of Time because obviously I love the Wheel of Time, but I don't love this. Yeah, Ship of Destiny. As you can see, there's a bit of a gap between. It's so peak and near peak. Not anymore. Ship of Destiny goes into near peak. Uh, Ship of Destiny is, it could have gone like here. It was very possible that it could have gone into peak, because this has legitimately like many of my favorite moments in all of fiction. And I think, as a conclusion to the trilogy for many of the characters, I think it's like near perfect. Um, as a conclusion to the trilogy for some other characters, I don't think it is. Specifically, one character whose name I'm not going to say, and that's because there's an event that happens really close, like really late in the Ship of Destiny, that completely changes the trajectory of the novel, and it's really controversial within the family. I think for the most part, she handles it really well right up until the end. And I think one of my problems with Ship of Destiny is like 900 pages. Okay, so I'm gonna try not to sound insane while saying this. Um, I think Ship of Destiny should have been longer, specifically for this character, for some other characters as well. I think this character's arc or resolution needed more breathing room, and like needed more time to like find a natural place compared to what she did at what Hobb did at the end. That being said, Ship of Destiny is phenomenal. The final battle in Ship of Destiny, I don't really care that much about. Like, by that point, I was kind of out of it. But then, within the middle of all that action, it's just like randomly, maybe the most brilliant scene in it. And this book solidifies Kenneth, and Kenneth is the character I was talking about in the matchup. Kenneth is my favorite antagonist character of all time, and I part of that is because he's written like a protagonist. Uh, I hate him. He's like one of the most vile, despicable people I've ever read about. But he is maybe the most well realized character I've ever. Like, he's very internally complex, obviously, and he's one of, he's just insanely well written from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, I can't say much spoilers, but it's just like there are scenes in this that are just like some of the most devastating things I've ever read, especially his relationship with another character in this book. That, by the way, is in like that relationship is first introduced in this book, and it doesn't even get that much time. But it's one of the best written things I've ever read. Yeah. So like Triple Destiny is one of my favorite books of all time. It's just like I have more problems with it than I probably do any other book that I would call one of my favorite books of all time. A Monster Calls is near peak. Uh, on reread, this is possible to go up even. This book is like, okay. My copy, I read this on ebook, but then I got a copy later, and that copy is like 200 pages. The actual thing is like the text is like insanely large. Monster Calls is in actuality like 90 pages, and like I finished it in like 2 hours. It's one of the most atmospheric, incredibly incredibly deep and like touching pieces of fiction I've ever experienced. It's just like an insanely well constructed story that I think could help a lot of people, and I think this makes me, I I just love this book, and I don't know how to talk about it. I'd say go into this as blind as you can. It's just like genuinely fantastic. Sailing to Radium by Gabriel K. Uh, this is either going to go bottom of your peak or top of its grade. I love Sailing to Radium. This is my first. I'm gonna go top of its grade. Sailing to Radium is just one one most people say start with the lines of Alderaan, which is over here, right? Um, I don't. I think that is a generally really good piece of advice. I am very happy that I started sailing Strontium. Because sailing Strontium is just like it's exactly what I want. And if you don't know what the concept of this is, and I'm going to tell you what the concept of this book is. Uh, there is the prologue is one of the best prologues I've ever read. I'm not going to tell you what the prologue is because I think it's best experienced blindly. I'm just I'm just like that. But the basic story is about a mosaicist named Crispin, and this is a duology. This is part of the series. I'm going to talk about the second book in two books. It's Sailor Random and it's Lord of Adventures. Uh, and the first book is mainly focused on Crispin, who is a mosaicist from Verena, which is uh, basically Ravenna in Italy. And I don't know that much about the actual historical parallels of this. I'm just trying to say the best I can based on what I've heard. But uh, he's summoned to the city of Byzantium, which is basically an analog this, for Constantinople, which was the head of the Byzantine Empire at one point, by the emperor to create a mosaic in the dome of the city. And it's uh, like the first of the book is basically him going to Byzantium, and it's like I don't know how to say this, but it's just like I went into GGK like, oh, this guy doesn't do magic damage, and then like one of the chapters in this book is one of my favorite uses of magic in a story, maybe like ever, and like maybe my favorite. It's like top 10 or top 5 for sure, and like people say this is definitely like the first half. It's the inferior half, but it's like it's a really high standard. Series Atlanteum is amazing. I'm going to talk about everything I love about the series with Lord of Emperors. So just praise the Lord. Trouble with Peace is my favorite book by Joe Abercrombie. So I was like, before this year, I was like, I don't think anything is going to top Last Argument of Kings for me. Uh, this tops Last Argument of Kings for me. It is just like so. The first half of I took a long time to read the first half of this book. That's not because it was bad. That was because I had a lot of stuff to do. So then one night I decided, and then like one time I read a part of this book and it just got really, really good immediately. And like the first half of the book was already amazing. And then the second half of this book is just like on another level. It's just like I don't like it was Joe Abercrombie that wrote this, and don't even Abercrombie is one of my favorite authors of all time. Um, it feels like so different and so complete, like so much more perfect than anything he's ever done. Like at first I was like, oh, maybe Trouble with Peace is my favorite Abercrombie book. It's in contention with Last Argument of Kings, and now like looking back on it, I'm like it is so clearly my favorite first Law book. It's not even funny. Um, like there's a big battle, and it's most people's like favorite part of the second half. It's my least favorite part of the second half of Trouble with Peace. Okay. Yeah. The battle that's in the second half of the piece is like insanely good, and it's my least favorite part of like the second half of the piece because it's amazingly well written, and then somehow everything else about it just happens to be better, and that's not even like a dig on. This is very much so like not a dig at the battle because the battle is amazing. Uh, it's just that everything else is so much better. Like there are people who are like the every page of this book was literally perfect. Every line, every sentence is perfect. And I'm like, I don't believe that. This and the next book's like second half is it's like before Abercrombie was like maybe my favorite dialogue writer. Hobb is my favorite dialogue writer now. But at the time Abercrombie was my favorite dialogue writer, but that was more for like really snappy and really well like witty and really fun dialogue. And then in this book, he showed me that he can do like the other kind of dialogue amazingly well. And like I already knew this because I read 8 books by the guy at this point. And then he just got even better at it. Like Trouble with Beasts, there are like conversations that are like some of the best things I've ever read. Insanely well written, insanely well powered out. I think also before this, I think character relationships were like a relative weak point for Abercrombie. It's just like he is one of the best character writers I've ever read. His characters, like the relationship between those characters, is not particularly well fleshed out. I think Trouble with Peace just like completely the Age of Madness is like you don't even get that much time with these characters interacting with each other, but all of their relationships, like the interconnecting webs between them, are so. It's just, it's just, and like so many of the emotional beats of these books rely on that, and it shouldn't work. But it does. So it's like, I was, like before this, I was like, oh, Abercrombie is really good at character writing, but he's not that great at character relationships. And I'm like, no, he's great at both. So, Double Wood Peace is one of my favorite books of all time, and it's an 8 year of this year list, which is how you know that this was a really good reading year. Lord of Emperors by Okay, so Trouble with Peace was the first book I read in October. Everything from Trouble with Peace to Fool's Errand is something that I read in October. So in summary, or maybe Killjoy, I'm not sure. I don't remember if I think I read Killjoy in November, but that doesn't matter. Trouble with Peace to Fool's Errand, that's all October. This is the best reading month I've ever had in my entire life. I'll see why pretty soon. Um, Lord of Emperors by Guy Gavriel is the third contender for Book of the Year. Uh, this is like if you ask me what the best book I've ever done, not my favorite book of all time, but like the best book in terms of like quality that I've ever read, Lord of Emperors is probably it. And also it's definitely the best book in terms of quality that I've read this year. Like I don't think it's that much. I don't think it's up for debate, but Lord of Emperors is one of the best things I've ever read. Everything that's built. So for the first half of this book, you don't really know what plot is going, and it doesn't focus as much on Crispin as I would like it to. Uh, it's still amazing. And the second half of this book is, I get why people call it. I get why this is people's favorite GGK book, and I would be surprised if anything overtakes it because like there are moments in this book like whenever I go back, and it hasn't even been that long since I finished it. I finished it in October since January. Um, where I go back and I read like like a line or like a section from Numbers, and everything that I felt while reading the second half is like it just comes rushing back. And the thing about Lord of Emperors is it's so like Trouble with Peace. I always said like, oh, every line, every piece of dialogue about the second half is perfect. Lord of Emperors like times that by 10. Like Guy Gavriel is like in contention with Robin Hobb, and I'm placing. I'm gonna take this as another opportunity to play as Robin Hobb. But you have to understand that I have no other word right now. But is in contention with Robin Hobb and might honestly win for my favorite prose writer of all time. And I've only read 3 books by the guy, and I've read 9 books by Hobb. Um, Guy Gabriel Case, like he makes choices with the writing in this book that is like if someone else did it, it would come off as just like clunky, and it would like he's trying to force it. Not Guy Gabriel Okay, not Guy Gabriel Okay. There's like lines on this book are just like sheer perfection, and this has my favorite epilogue, and maybe my favorite like final scene, maybe my favorite final scene to a book of all time. It is just phenomenal. Every time I think about this book, it just I'd like it a little bit more. So yeah, Lord of Emperors is fantastic. I don't know why Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell is here because that was a reread, so I might exclude it from this. Um, but whatever, it's gonna go and it's okay. I really like Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. I really like Silence and William Ann, who are the main characters of this book. I really love the world of Trinity that this book is set on, and I just think it's a really good book. Anyway, Wisdom of Crowds. Wisdom of Crowds is not like one of my favorite books of all time. This is my second favorite Abercrombie book. I think this Abercrombie is planning to write more after he is done with Wisdom of Crowds. Like he is going to do more after like he finishes the Devil. He's gonna come back to the first law. Uh, I don't think he should because there's no way that he tops Wisdom of Crowds as an ending to first law because it like I will Last Argument of Kings is a brilliant ending for like the first law trilogy. I was like, okay, but it makes sense to keep going from here. Um, and I say this and knowing and whenever the hell he releases the next first law book, I will read it day one it releases. Um, I just think that the best course of action is to just stop with first law because there's no way you can end it off better than this because everything I said about like Chocolate with Peace heroes like like being the climax and like the peak of all the teams he has reached. I think like the wisdom of crowds isn't like the peak of all that, but it hammers it in the best. And like the funniest scene in the first law is in this book. It's also the most devastating scene in the entire first law. So yeah. And it just works on so many levels as an ending insanely well to the point that it's just like I genuinely can't see where he would go from here and uh and make it better. But that's the thing with Abercrombie. I don't know. He could. He 100% could. It's just that, in my opinion, this is the best place to end it because it works on so many levels as an ending. But anyway, The Great Change and Utter Lies by, again, you a lot of Joe Abercrombie here, but yeah, Joe Abercrombie. I love The Great Change and Utter Lies. Most people like Sharp Ends more. I like The Great Change more. That is because The Great Change is just like I think it's more consistently good. There's like four stories in this, and like the first one is really good, second one is really good, and also it's like really funny in my opinion. Like the last line of it is just like hilarious, and then third one is okay, and then the fourth one is just like I I think it like takes everything like the end of Wisdom of Crowds is wild, and then it takes some things from the end of Wisdom of Crowds, and then just like expands on it to the point where it feels even more mild, and it just feels like this was how it was going to happen either way. And I think that's the mark of a really good author, which is like this happened, and I don't think any other way would have been better for the story. But also, I think this is why you have been going the whole time, and this is the artistic vision you have had the whole time, and you couldn't have done it better. So, yeah, I don't have much to say about Great Change, but I do love it. If it was just a Great Change as a whole, it would be Husky. It's like not the story collection wouldn't be above that. It might even be above that country. The Great Change, the collection would be above Dead House Gates, but the singular story would be probably above Dead House Gates, which is my hot take of the day. Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. I've said so much about Robin Hobb at this point, but Fool's Errand is one of the best books I have ever read. It's one of the most like beautiful books I've ever read in my entire life. It's also one of the it's one of the best smelling books I've ever read in my entire life. Like Assassin's Quest and Fool's Errand, just both smell like ridiculously good. It makes no sense. It's just like if I smell bad stuff for a whole day, I pick those up and then I smell them. It's they're just weird. It's I don't know how they smell that, but they just do. Anyway, Fool's Errand is the ending of this book is just like it's devastating, but but it's also just like healing in a way, which is it kind of applies for all of Hobb, but especially Fool's Errand, and it's just like again, everything here and like most of the stuff in It's So Puke and Near Peak are like among my favorite books about like fools, and it's just like these five like right here are like top 10 books about me, and three of them are by the same author. Um, Fools, I don't know what to say. First, like 200 pages of Fools and nothing happens. But it's like the best, some of the best nothing happening I've ever read because it's Hobb. Uh, and like again, Royal Assassin, like the character who is like, who, like one my favorite fictional relationship, like, character relationship of all time is at its peak in Fool's Errand. Uh, and it's like the way they're dynamic and like what they make me do is like it's phenomenal. I don't want to say that much about Fool's Errand because it's the seventh book in the series, but it's just like it's insane good. Killjoy by Holly Jackson. So I read all three. I read the first Good Girls Guide to Murder book back in 2023, and then I read the other two in 2024, and now I've read this. So now I've read everything in that one, and this is my least favorite of the four, pretty comfortably. It might be it's like I also listened to this on audiobook, and I have like pretty consistent criticisms with this as compared to like the other books as well because I just don't think Holly Jackson is a very good character writer. Like, she has like four good characters. She has actually, she has like three good characters in the whole series. It's like Pip and two of the antagonists, and murder. Um, those and like the two murders aren't even like that good characters. They're just like that's how low the bar is because every single side character in Good Side of is just kind of forgettable. Ravi is the one that's just like the least kind of forgettable. Like, but after the first book, he's basically like a wet blanket. So, I don't know if I'm using that, um, but that's what you get when you figure out most words, the context. But uh, because of that, like Killjoy, the murder suspects are like the side characters of the book, obviously, but they're side characters from the original series. And the thing with that is, since Killjoy is about it's not actually a murder mystery. It's about a murder mystery party and like how she decided what she would do for. Like it basically leads to the decision she makes that leads to the beginning of the Girls Guide to Murder. And the thing with Killjoy is that it's a murder mystery party. So first of all, you have really forgettable side characters, and on top of that, the side characters have fake names that they're using on top of their real names. So you have to remember two sets of names for the most forgettable cast of side characters I've ever read outside of Isles of the Emberdark. Because I actually Isles of the Emberdark is the most forgettable cast of side characters ever, except maybe Sunlit Man. Anyway, but yeah, Killjoy is it's okay. Probably like the bottom of it's okay. I maybe I like it a little bit more in sharp ends. Uh, Seeing someone to lead up and clues towards what happened in Guru's Head Murder was fun. But I think don't read this before Guru's Head Murder because it basically tells you who the murderer is immediately. It's not subtle. She thinks it's subtle. It's not subtle. It's very obvious. Anyway, Feet of Clay, it hurts me that both none of the two I've only read two Terry Pratchett books this year, which should be a crime in some country somewhere, but unfortunately, uh, yeah, Fear of Clay is I think the best. All of those City Watch books are like crime procedurals, is how I've had it described to me. Men at Arms is still like my second favorite Discord book. Men at Arms is just amazing. So it's just like I had really high expectations coming into this one. It didn't match them, but to be completely honest, they were way too high. And anyway, Pure Clay is just like really fun. For first like I don't know 100 pages, I was like, oh, this isn't that funny, and then it gets really funny immediately after that. Um, and it has best like mystery. It's the most invested I have been in the mystery of one of the City Watch books. Except actually, now that I think about it, Guard Cards also has a really good mystery. So to be completely honest, I have no idea. But Steel Clay is amazing. Uh, it it makes the gauntlet between Vimes and Death as my favorite Discord character even harder. So again, I don't know where I was, but I'm just gonna keep going with Golden Fool. Golden Fool goes here. I love the Golden Fool. Um, I like the Golden Fool probably less than like Fool's Errand, but the Golden Fool is still like amazing. So again, earlier I said I would cry that much at books. The Golden Fool pushed me to the brink on like three separate occasions, um, and one of them, and again, that's incredibly impressive. Like one of them, it would have been the first time I cried. It's just that the scene ended before I could start crying, so then it welled down a little bit. I almost did, and I think just uh, Golden Fool is just like the perfect continuation. It's like it's with a lot of redundancy underlings. It's like the first book, like Assassin's Apprentice, feels fairly removed from Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest. Like Ship of Magic feels like really removed again from the Magic and Ship Destiny. Like Magic and Ship Destiny are like pretty continuous and like pretty much in very similar situations, which are I think Live Ship is the one where this applies in these, but it still does apply. And then like that Fool's End and the Golden Fool and Fool's Fate. Fool's End feels like kind of disconnected. Like it's one. Fool's End is almost like in a way, and then Golden Pool and Fool's Fate just like are feel like the big story of the thing, and the way that the Golden Pool sets up that big story, not only for Tony in it, but like for the entire the other lane, is amazing. And I think Golden Pool in general is just like I really like Hobb when nothing is happening. Like if I had to choose an order, right? Nothing happening. I wouldn't choose anyone but Hobb because Hobb is just so good at it. Because like some of the best like pieces of Hobb writing and atmosphere is in like her slower books. Like even like Fool's Errand is actually like comparatively a lot happens in Fool's Errand, and Fool's Errand is like shorter than a couple of the other Nobody Learnings books. It's still pretty long. It's like almost 700 pages, but it's still but it's actually like pretty fast paced comparatively, except like the first 200 pages where almost nothing happens, and like those first 200 pages are just like where I like her writing the most. And the Golden Fool just like continues that, except this for the whole book. It also just like really reminds me of Royal Assassin for various reasons that I can't say. Fool's Fate is like it's I think it's a pretty unpopular opinion to like call it my least favorite the Donnie Man trilogy. It's pretty close. It's like between Golden Fool and Fool's Fate. Fool's Fate I just found like less engaging than most pop books like consistently. Like again the first half is like really good. It's just like my least favorite first half out of all of these, and I think it's just like less compelling. Like there's a clear goal at the end of Fool's Fate, and it was just like I enjoyed those sections less than I enjoyed like the average section in Fool's Errand of Golden Rule. The final half of Fool's Fate, especially the following action, is just brilliant. So again, I might like this more on reread, and this might end up being like my second favorite. I don't think it's gonna be my favorite. It's just because Fool's Errand is so good. But see, maybe it will change drastically on Golden Rule too. And yeah, I really love Fool's Fate. I think like this is the one that made the relationship between Fitz and the Fool a contender for my favorite character relationship of all time. So the contention is between Fitz and another character, and Fitz and the Fool. So um, I can you guess who my second favorite character of all time is? Yeah, I love Fitz. Anyway, I just think that like the last 200 pages of this book, they're so out of Assassin's Question, Destiny, and Fool's Fate. I've read all three this year, obviously. Assassin's Quest is my favorite. Super Destiny, and I like Super Destiny comfortably more than Fool's Fate. But I think Fool's Fate uh, is like the best as a conclusive ending. Like if this was the end of the Elder Rings, it would work. I'm happy it's not because I'm just happy that there's more. But it's not like Wisdom of Crowds where it's like, oh, I need more. No, I can. No, it's not like Wisdom of Crowds where it's like, no, this is where it should end. I'm happy with this. It's like I'm happy with this, but there should be more because there's stuff that I need more of. And also, Fool's Fate has my favorite poem of all time. It's I won't tell you what it is, but it's just like that. The poem is like disproportionately emotionally impactful. Anyway, the Lines of Alderaan goes into the bottom of your pick. Lines of Alderaan is like amazing. It's like not my favorite because this is a lot of people's favorite gigantic book. I like it comfortably less than Lord of Emperors. That's also partly because Lord of Emperors is so damn good. But thing with Lions of Alderaan is that the ending is like so. What I've heard about it from people I trust a lot with their opinions is like the first half, like the first section of this book is amazing. The middle is really good, but not like quite as good. It like drags a bit for some people. It didn't drag for me. Just liked it less at the beginning because the beginning of this book is like phenomenal. And then and then the end of the book is the best part by far, and that is like that's pretty much exactly my thoughts. Like I got gripped and like I got connected almost immediately. It's like some of the fastest I've ever connected to a group of characters, except like Ship of Magic, I'll be ever dark. I've spoken about all of them before. The Way of Kings is also up there. Mistborn, yeah. But Lions of Our Sun is just like incredible in so many ways, and uh, the ending again does. It's like um GGK does the thing with the endings. Like in Lord of Emperors, I think he does it better than here. But he does it really well in Legend of Sun again, where he has these big generationally changing moments and then like pulls back into the more personal stakes of it. And in Lord of Emperors, he just does that insanely good. And like the consequences of those big things, and then like how they impact like the personal stakes of all these people around them. He does that again in Obsan, and he creates a character relationship between three that is basically like three characters that is like the linchpin of the whole novel, and it works insanely well. Like the last chapter of this book is just amazing. I like Lord of Emperors' ending more, but I just like Lord of Emperors as a whole more. But this also solidified GGK as my favorite prose writer. Again, it's a toss up between him and Hobb, but uh, we'll see, I guess. Anyway, I guess this is so. Assassin's Quest ship by Robin Hobb, Ship of Magic, also by Robin Hobb, and Lord of Emperors by Guy Gabriel Kay are my three contenders for Book of the Year this year. And I think so I'm gonna go by what is, on the most days my Book of the Year, and this could change any day. Like all three of these are phenomenal books. On most days, it's Assassin's Quest because most books don't impact me like Assassin's Quest does. Triple Magic nearly did. Lord of Emperors nearly did. So it's like my ranking of these three could change on any day. On a day, Assassin's Quest could be my least favorite of them. It's not a very common day, but it's a day. Um, and on some days, Chip of Magic would be my favorite of them. But for now, I think my ranking is pretty solidly Assassin's Quest, Lord of Emperors, and then Chip of Magic. And then everything else is pretty much exactly as it is. I think I might have a couple inconsistencies between the spreadsheet and this, but I don't think it's that many. Uh, so yeah, those are all the things that I read for the first time this year. This has already gone on for an hour and a half, so I think I'm just gonna end it here. Um, this is probably my again. I've said this is probably my last tier list for a while. It's really like no tier lists. I can talk without having to look at my face for a very long time. So um, that's fun. It's also more comfortable because my face is in front and center, so I don't care about what I look while I'm filming it, and I don't have like general anxieties. So that's fun. Yeah, that's the end of this, and I've decided that I am not going to do whole reread thing because this is already an hour and a half long. So, without further ado, smell you later.